Hello everyone. Let's begin with this new chapter, that is consumer markets and buyer behavior. We'll go through the brief learning objectives of this chapter first and look into the details that what it entails. The first learning objective for this chapter inculcates understanding the consumer markets, and we would need to evaluate what are consumer markets. We'll be discussing the construct of Pakistani consumer markets and then the international consumer market as well. We can discuss various markets like of US and UK. We'll be moving on with a simple model that is of consumer bias behavior, the stimulus response model that we are going to discuss and cover in upcoming slides. Moving on, we'll be discussing about the four factors that influence the consumer behavior. We'll get into the details about it as well. Then there will be discussion upon the major types of buying decision behavior and the stages involved in the buyer's decision process. Finally, we'll be discussing the adoption and diffusion process for new products. So that is the details about this topic and this chapter. Let's start with learning objective 1. This is about defining the consumer markets and construct a simple model of consumer bias behavior. Okay, so what actually is consumer market? It's very important to understand and define what is a consumer market. As you all know what a market is. A market is a place where buyers and sellers meet. But now we are talking about consumer markets. In the class previously we had discussed about B2C and B2B markets. B2C are all B2C markets are businesses that businesses that caters to consumers, whereas B2B, when we are talking about B2B markets, are those where businesses caters to businesses, and I gave you the example of Horeca channels. Okay, now focusing upon consumer markets. So what is a consumer market? Consumer markets, as the definition says, are made up of all the individuals and households that buy or acquire goods and services for personal consumption. So here the focus upon is the personal consumption. Here, who are the buyers? We need to understand here individuals like us, like an ordinary man, a husband or a wife or a father. Like we all are the customers, or we as an individuals are buying from the market. So it's about the households. Consumer markets focuses upon the individuals like us, and then these involves the individuals and households that buy or acquire goods and services for their personal consumption. Personal consumption, here the focus is that you are not producing or reproducing anything. Like in B2B markets, what happen, a business can buy semi-finished goods, good like raw material, to manufacture and produce a final good for consumption. So here consumer markets involve the concept that whatever is being bought is by individual, not a firm or not a company, and they are usually the household people, and they use it and they buy it for the personal consumption. Okay, once we have understood this consumer market, it's important to understand what are their behaviors.